Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a fascinating report in front of us today looking at potential high-impact weather across Europe for June 18th to 26th, 2025.
That's right. And our job really is to unpack this with you, pull out the key insights.
Exactly. Act as your guides through this material. So what's the main headline jumping out from this report?
Well, the core finding is a really powerful atmospheric pattern. It looks set to basically split Europe into two distinct zones. Two very different kinds of high-impact weather.
Okay, splitting the continent. How? What's driving that?
The report calls it a robust, quasi-stationary high-pressure blocking system. Think of it settling over Western and Central Europe.
Quasi-stationary, meaning it doesn't move much.
Exactly. It just sits there. It's often called an omega block, because of its shape on the weather maps. It acts like a huge barrier in the atmosphere.
Well, the report uses the phrase meteorological mountain.
That's a great way to put it. It stops that typical west-to-east flow of weather systems dead in its tracks, or forces them way around.
And that blockage has two major consequences, right? It's not just one effect.
Precisely. So the area directly under this block, it becomes very hot, very stable, and really dry.
Okay, heat and dry conditions there. But what about the edges?
Well, the eastern edge becomes the focus point. All the atmospheric energy that can't move west to east gets channeled there, setting the stage for intense storms.
Right. So let's tackle the western side first. The heat wave. The report seems pretty confident about this.
High confidence, yes. Western, southwestern, central Europe, looking at temperatures widely above 30 degrees Celsius, persistently.
And names some big cities. Paris potentially hitting 37 Celsius. Madrid, maybe 38.
Even London expected over 30, possibly mid-30 Celsius. This is significant heat for these regions.
What's making it so intense? Does the report mention any specific factors?
It does. Two key things. One is unusually warm sea surface temperatures in the North Atlantic, sort of preloading the air with warmth.
Okay. And the second?
Critically low soil moisture from a dry spring. It was a big one. Dry ground heats up much faster.
So the sun's energy just bakes the ground instead of evaporating water. A feedback loop.
Exactly right. It creates this feedback loop that just amps up the heat near the surface.
And the impacts are obvious risks to public health, especially in cities. Strain on transport, power grids.
Definitely. Now, shift east to the other side of this coin. Along the eastern flank of that block, Eastern Europe, Western Russia, North Caucasus.
A completely different story, I gather.
Completely different. The forecast there is for a significant and, frankly, dangerous severe convective storm outbreak.
Severe storms. What's the atmospheric setup driving that?
You've got a very sharp boundary, a real clash of air masses. The hot, stable air from the west slamming into cooler, more unstable air.
And the report mentions high instability, SAPE values.
Yeah, SAPE that's convective, available potential energy up to 3,500 joules per kilogram in places. That's a lot of fuel for thunderstorms.
Huge potential energy. What else?
Strong wind shear. The winds are changing speed and direction significantly with height, thanks to the jet stream being diverted around the southern edge of the block.
And that shear helps organize the storms, makes them more severe.
It's crucial. It allows storms to rotate and become more powerful, more long-lived. The report lists the main threats as very large hail, potentially over 5 centimeters. Widespread damaging straight-line winds, definitely risk of flash flooding from intense rainfall.
And tornadoes.
And a notable tornado risk. The report specifically flags Western Russia, even drawing an analogy to a level 3 risk scenario.
Level 3, that implies a pretty significant threat level for tornadoes, right?
It does. It suggests conditions could be favorable for potentially strong tornadoes in that area.
So impacts there are quite different too. Agriculture hit by hail and wind, power outages, transport chaos from storms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the crucial point the report makes, and this is key,
yes,
is that these two zones, the heat and the storms, they aren't separate events happening coincidentally.
They're
directly linked. The strength and the sheer persistence of that western heat dome is what creates the sharp boundary and channels the energy needed for the intense storms on its eastern side. One feeds the other.
So, wrapping up the forecast confidence. High on the overall pattern. Hot west, stormy east.
Yes, high confidence in that general setup holding through the period.
But maybe less certainty on the exact details?
Moderate confidence, the report says. Things like the absolute peak temperature in Paris, or precisely which town gets the worst hailstorm. That kind of fine detail always has more uncertainty this far out. Standard forecasting challenges.
And looking slightly further ahead, does this pattern break down quickly after the 26th?
The suggestion is Probably not immediately. This quasi-stationary setup looks likely to persist into late June, maybe even early July, so this dual threat could continue for a while.
It really shows, doesn't it, how interconnected things are, how factors like, soil moisture that feels very local.
Or a patch of warm ocean?
Yeah. How they can play a massive role in shaping these huge continent-spanning high-impact weather events described in the report.
Absolutely. It brings us back to the core idea.
Yeah.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. What does it really mean for our understanding, for our preparedness, when one single dominant weather feature can simultaneously create life-threatening heat in one major region and violent destructive storms just a few hundred miles away in another? It's a powerful reminder of the dynamics at play.